Hey, this is Paula and Louie from the website wildernesscommonsense.com. Today we're exploring Arizona, visiting the old mining town of Chloride and surrounding area. Chloride is located in northwestern Arizona between Las Vegas, Nevada and Kingman, Arizona. It's a great, quirky town with lots of history. In the 1860s and 70s, the Surbat Mountains of Mojave County were full of prospectors, and where they found the most mines, they built towns, including Chloride, Mineral Park, Surbat, and Stockton. Chloride is the only one that survives today. Nothing but stone foundations are left at Surbat and Stockton. The town site of Mineral Park was sold in 1959 to the Duval Mining Company for back taxes, and the present operation offices are located where the town once stood. Chloride was a bustling town with a population that reached 2,500, but it started declining when the mines closed. The largest producer, the Tennessee mine, closed in 1947. Today there is a post office, a general store, the Mineshaft Market, and yesterday's restaurant, motel, and trading post. This building started out as the livery for the Butterfield stage line. They even have a gas station, but we don't think it's pumped gas in quite a while. Town is full of old relics, arts and crafts shops, and a replica frontier town called Cyanide Springs.
In the center of town is Cyanide Springs, a replica of a western town where they have mock gunfights on weekends. There's a bank, mercantile store, and of course the railings where you can tie up your horse. There's a newspaper office and a land office in case you're going to stake any mining claims, and the Deadass Saloon. If this town were real, this is where I would be relaxing, having a cold beer after a day of prospecting. Rich silver veins were first discovered on Silver Hill in the 1860s, and once trouble with the native peoples were resolved, a town was built. First called Silver Hill, the name was changed to Chloride. This name was chosen because the most common silver mineral was saragerite, a chloride of silver. The street names in Chloride are from the many mines in the area, with the largest producer being the Tennessee. It produced silver, lead, zinc, and a little bit of gold. On this map, you can see the numerous veins which are shown in red.
The mineralization in this area is in fissure veins, narrow fissures filled with ore, minerals, and quartz. So they had to be mined with underground methods using shafts, which are vertical holes, and adits, which are horizontal workings. The trace of the vein is highlighted in red.
The life of a miner was hard, working in dirty, tight, confined spaces.
Many of the mines were located in the mountains, so the ore had to be hauled by burro to the mill and then by wagon. Some of the ore the mines produced was rich enough that it could be shipped directly to the smelter, and some had to be concentrated in a mill like the one pictured here. The smelters of the day were located in El Paso, Texas, and Pueblo, Colorado.
In 1899, a narrow gauge spur line was built, the Arizona and Utah line, that went from the Mecanico siding on the main Santa Fe line to Chloride. The plan was to take this spur line all the way to White Hills, but in 1904, a major flood washed away the railroad grade. Luckily for the miners, in 1905, the line was rebuilt by the Santa Fe Company and called the Arizona Western Rail Line. Chloride could load its concentrates on the railroad, but the mines at Mineral Park and Surbat had to haul theirs by wagon to a siding on the spur line. We decided to look for the Mineral Park siding. We started our hunt for the railroad siding at the intersection of Highway 93 and Mineral Park Road. As we were driving up the road, we noticed the pumps and tanks on the right-hand side. This is booster station number 2 on the pipeline that brings water from Golden Valley to the mine, a total of 13 miles. We looked for a road that takes off to the north and found one a short distance beyond the booster station. The road wasn't too bad, but a high clearance vehicle is definitely needed to get beyond the berms put up next to the road. Just a short distance from the road, we found a large, flat area without vegetation. This looked very suspicious. There were lots of old tin cans and metal straps that looked like barrel hoops. Continuing along the road, we came to an area that looks like a railroad grade, and as we followed it, we got to a large wash where the grade had been washed away. So we went back to the flat area to investigate. Continuing on the flat area, walking around, we found what looked like sulfide-bearing material. This must have come from the mines. It couldn't have come from rocks out here in the valley. It looked like ore and concentrates that fell off a wagon during the loading process. So we looked at one of the rocks, and yep, this is high-grade ore, more than likely from the Mineral Park mine area. There are also lots of wood, tin cans, and nail. This is for sure the railroad siding for Mineral Park. Looking around some more, we found a fence around a hole. It turned out to be a cistern, now mostly filled with bees, but it must have been the place water was stored for some kind of residence or work next to the railroad siding.
Heading back to Chloride, we decided to take the old Boulder Dam Road. This was the highway before Highway 93 was built. At about 1.6 miles from the stop sign, we turned on a road going east toward 2 large metal tanks.
The Emerald Isle mine produced copper from chrysocolla ore. The road into the pit is very rough, but passable in 4-wheel drive. Near the bottom, one can still find ore samples.
To the miners, the chrysocolla must have looked like an emerald isle in a sea of dirt brown. The mine was first developed in 1917 as an underground operation. The plant and open pit we see today dates from the 1940s, with modern attempts in the 1980s to open the mine without good results. What's left of this modern attempt is in pretty bad shape. They were using heap leaching to dissolve the copper contained in the ore and then electrowinning to recover it. Some of the roof is gone and the tanks have been vandalized. Nature is taking over with coyote melons growing all around and bird nests in the rafters of the buildings. The electrowinning plant has a hoist on rails that lifted the copper plates. The hoist is now occupied by a hawk's nest. Uphill of the plant are the heap leach pads. The ore was stacked and acid was dripping through the heap to leach out the copper. The heap is loaded on a black liner to keep this acid from infiltrating into the groundwater. After checking out the Emerald Isle, we returned to the old Boulder Dam Highway and continued to Chloride. No trip to Chloride would be complete without a visit to the world-famous Murals. They are located on a dirt road about 1.4 miles from town. Driving on 2nd Street past yesterday's restaurant, we arrived at the stop sign where we turned right on Tennessee Avenue. And here we passed the post office, and a little farther on the right is the Mine Shaft Market. It's hard to miss, being the only general store in town. The road is paved until reaching the east side of town. We crossed the cattle guard and stayed to the right on the graded dirt road. And we followed the arrows painted on rocks, and here the road becomes a little rougher. Tailings from the Tennessee mill are on the left. Miners call what they put into a mill the heads, and the waste that comes out of the mill are called tails. The road is usually passable by most vehicles. At a prominent Y in the road, we stayed to the left and continued to the parking area for the murals. The murals were painted by Roy Purcell in 1966 while he worked at the Mineral Park mine. The residents of Chloride, most prominently Pat Patterson, gave him the money to buy the paint. But he was not the first artist to produce murals on these rocks. There are also petroglyphs. I guess everyone will have their own interpretation of what the artist depicted in the murals. He named them The Journey, images from an inward search for self. To us, the journey starts on the lower right, where the eagle's talons are firmly gripping the town of Chloride, a firm grip on history. Then it morphs into a snake that goes out and experiences things in life from many different cultures. For those adventuresome folks with a four-wheel drive vehicle, the road that continues uphill from the murals goes to the top of the range. It's not bad, but there are a few places that require driver skill to make it over rocky areas. This is one of our favorite four-wheeling roads. It's about 2.5 miles to the top. Once on top, we'll take a short road to remember a tragedy at the Brighter Days mine. First bad spot starts right as you leave the Murals parking lot. We slowly started up the mountain. It's very rocky. And after rains, there could be washouts, so don't tip over. It gets better. A short distance up the road is one of our favorite spots to take pictures. Here we turned left on a short brushy road to a dry waterfall. In the spring, the falls have water and it's a great place to cool down. Our friends were going to drive on the rock, so we got ready to film their attempt. The rock has a 35-degree slope and it can be scary.
Look, Jordan. Okay.
Further up the road are a few bad spots where driver skill is required, but this just makes it fun. There is also some brush and an occasional rock to straddle, so be sure to know what size rock you can drive over without scraping. Brush alongside the road might scratch your vehicle, but we proudly call it desert pinstriping. There are still remnants of electric power poles from the time electricity was supplied to the mines. The power was generated in Kingman at the powerhouse plant, where today's tourist visitor center is housed. Also, there are concrete foundations of an aerial tramway tower. You can imagine it was rough getting the ore off the mountain to Chloride, so some mines use tramways. Around Bend is a dump and ore bin on the southeast extension of the Rainbow Vein. The worthless rock was dumped in a pile, while the ore-bearing rock was stored in the ore bin. The chutes at the bottom are where the ore was drawn to load wagons. The wood trestle was used to move the waste rock to the end of the dump. Carefully climbing the waste dump, we had a great view of the ore bin and trestle. What a beautiful panorama of Sacramento Valley with chloride at the foot of the Surbat Mountains. Continuing onward, the road becomes a shelf road that might make some people uncomfortable. However, the views are worth it. It never pays to be in a hurry on these roads. Two vehicles that apparently were in a hurry coming down the mountain didn't make a hairpin turn and went off the road into the canyon. There's a pickup truck down low and a car up higher. No doubt the passengers in those vehicles had a scary ride down the hill before abruptly stopping. We won't make the same mistake as we navigate up the hairpin turn and rocky part of the road. The road goes over the Lucky Boy mine dumps before making the last few switchbacks and reaching the top. At the top is the trailhead for the Shrum Peak Trail, a moderately challenging hiking trail to the top of Shrum Peak, the highest point in the southern Surbat Mountains. Next to the trailhead is a rough road that goes up a steep incline. This is the road to the Brighter Days mine, site of the 2007 tragedy, and then the road continues to the Samoa mine. We carefully made our way on this road to a wide spot where we could turn around and parked before continuing on foot. Labor Day weekend 2007, two girls were riding their three-wheeled ATV on this dangerous narrow road when something made them go off the road and they fell into the Brighter Day mine shaft. The older girl was killed in the fall while the younger one survived. We were in search and rescue at the time and participated in the search. Louis was one of the rope team members that rappelled down the shaft to rescue the surviving girl. The road is narrow and not safe for a wide vehicle. After the tragedy, a fence was put up along the road above the mine shaft, but we don't think it will stop a vehicle that starts to tip. Before reaching the fence, there is a faint trail that goes down to the mine dump. It's hard to follow because of the brush. Once on the dump, one can see the memorial that has been put up to remember what happened that day. Seeing the mine shaft again brought back memories. While the rescuers were at the bottom of the shaft, the rescue ropes were knocking down loose rocks that bounced off their hard hats. What if one of the larger rocks had been knocked loose? We don't even want to think about it. Returning to the main road, we continued to Windy Point Campground, a BLM campground with picnic tables and pit toilets. The views are spectacular. This is the place for anyone wanting solitude and great views. The way home is down Big Wash Road that goes to Highway 93. Hope you enjoyed our video and that you subscribe to our channel.